You know what's really rare these days? Finding out that politicians are working together to achieve a common goal. And it's even more crazy when that common goal is prison reform. So when I heard this criminal justice bill, the First Step Act, was moving through Congress with bipartisan support, I was like, y'all feeling okay?
The bipartisan bill before us is a meaningful, historic criminal justice reform measure.
I supported this bipartisan bill in committee because it will help more ex-offenders re-enter the workforce.
We have went to so many different groups from the left and the right that say this is a great first step.
So I urge a yes vote, and I do so with a lot of enthusiasm today.
So here's what the First Step Act hopes to do. It would ease sentencing for low-level drug offenders, reduce prison overcrowding, and encourage rehabilitation programs to help people re-enter society. So Jared Kushner was actually one of the earliest backers of the First Step Act. Plus, evangelical groups, the ACLU, right-wing mega donors, the Koch brothers, even private prison giants like GEO and CCA support the strategies outlined in this legislation. Now, a bipartisan victory like this would be huge for President Trump, and he says he's all for it.
Today, I'm thrilled to announce my support for this bipartisan bill that will make our community safer and give former inmates a second chance at life after they have served their time.
But of course, this is all too good to be true, right? It can't be this easy. It literally is just a first step, this piece of legislation. So you've got a handful of Democrats who say it doesn't go far enough, and some Republicans who say it goes too far. Now, the First Step Act passed through the Republican-controlled House earlier this year, so now it's the Senate's turn to do something, and Leader Mitch McConnell is stalling. The majority of the Republican caucus is behind this thing, but there are a few hardcore haters like Republican Senator Tom Cotton from Arkansas. This is how he describes the First Step Act.
A sentencing leniency bill that will let thousands of violent, serious, and repeat felons out of prison within just weeks or months of its passing.
But look, I mean, is anyone surprised? I mean, he's been putting the hard in hardliner since 2014. This is the same guy who said we have an under-incarceration problem in America.
As for the claim that we should have more empathy for criminals, I won't even try to conceal my contempt for this idea. I empathize first and foremost with the victims of crime and their families. We ought to give criminals a shot at rehabilitation and redemption, but primarily because it's in our interest as a society, not because they deserve more empathy.
Look, Senator Cotton, most of the First Step Act applies to nonviolent drug offenders, and wardens would still have to give their approval for early release into a halfway house. Word on the street, Cotton's trying to sway key swing votes like Ted Cruz. But interestingly enough, the same people who worked on prison reform in Ted Cruz's state helped shape the First Step Act. In 2007, Texas lawmakers realized just how expensive it was to house 170,000 prisoners. Through reform policies, Texas reduced the incarcerated population by 12,000 and closed 8 prisons. I mean, this likely saved Texas about $2.5 billion. Oh, and by the way, the crime rate there is the lowest it's been since 1967. So how did a red law and order state like Texas become the model for federal criminal justice reform? Well, some like to think legislators come for the savings and stay for the salvation. Meanwhile, in Washington, doesn't seem like McConnell is interested in either of those things. He has enough time and enough support to bring the First Step Act to the Senate floor for a vote. Advocates of this legislation believe the last couple of weeks left in this session of Congress might be the best opportunity we have as a nation to make a modest dent in criminal justice reform for the next few years. And if this inaction continues, generations of American families will suffer over a few petty partisan political points.
Hey, NBC News viewers, thanks for checking out our YouTube channel. Subscribe by clicking on that button down here and click on any of the videos over here to watch the latest interviews, show highlights, and digital exclusives. Thanks for watching.